Paray-le-Monial is this rather remarkable and unique place where Jesus appeared. He appeared to St. Margaret Mary in the 17th century during the reign of Louis XIV.
This was a century of deep scientific upheavals, of profound discoveries. When the Americas were discovered, it was found that man is no longer at the center, i.e., Europe is no longer the center of the world. Now the question is, what is there in the heart of man? What does man hold within? Margaret Mary received a message which in part answers the expectations of her contemporaries. Who is in the heart of man? What is in the heart of man? It is the heart of Jesus.
Here what I can hear is first of all the words, and notably the words of this woman, Margaret Mary, from the nearby region of Charolles, born in Vézrovre. At first glance, we know nothing about her, because what she represents, she holds within.
Our story begins in the 17th century, a period in full swing. Famines, wars, political unrest, the incredible flourishing of the arts, religious renewal. We are at a turning point in civilization. But it's far from all this, in a Charolais village, that Jesus, the story master, prepares the apparitions of his heart. For this, he chose Margaret, an astonishing young girl. She has a secret. When she was only 5 years old, without anyone's knowledge, she made an astonishing promise to him within her heart. Oh my God, I dedicate my purity to you and I vow to you perpetual chastity. She didn't understand everything she was saying, she confessed to us later. But Jesus took this prayer very seriously. Young Margaret had a very difficult childhood. At the age of 8, her father died. Margaret and her mother were then exploited by their in-laws like slaves. Hungry, beaten, and restrained, having to ask permission for anything. Margaret will always be appealed by the Eucharist. Even when her aunts forbade her as a continuous battle to attend Mass, she found a way to meditate upon a boulder turned towards the village church. In the midst of her suffering, she will always find comfort in prayer. She was truly in love with Christ and did not want to refuse him anything. At 10, she became ill and remained bedridden 4 years in a row. Is this illness a consequence of her father's death? We don't know that. But she healed miraculously after promising the Blessed Virgin to become a nun if she regained health. She will add Marie to her first name as a sign of gratitude for this healing. As the years passed, Margaret Mary grew up, and gradually the period of slavery ended. But eventually forgot her vow of consecration and let herself be carried away by the frantic rhythm of the world in which she lives. She later confessed, "So I began to see the world and to adorn myself to be pleasing, seeking to have fun as much as I could. I was naturally drawn to my desires." But Jesus did not forget his beloved and soon reminded her. At the age of 18, after a ball, he appeared flogged and disfigured and reproached her for forgetting him, even though he was suffering so much for her. These words touch her in the heart and help her decide to dedicate herself entirely to her Lord. A new battle then begins. Her family refused her entry into the monastery, preferring for her to start a family. But they finally gave in, and while Margaret Mary could have joined her cousin in Macon, it was in Paray-le-Monial that she decided to go, Christ having told her, "This is where I want you." By choosing this city, she is choosing a secluded place to be hidden and forgotten there. On June the 20th, 1671, after 6 years of difficulty, she finally entered the Monastery of the Visitation. She is 24 years old.
In the Visitation Convent, at the age of 24, she is older than the others, so life is not easy, community life is not easy, and it takes time for Margaret Mary to be understood and welcomed. But such was her will. She entered the Visitation Convent not knowing anyone. She just wanted to be there, not for friendship, for a sister, or for an aunt who she may have known that was a nun. She wanted to be there for Jesus, and to live with her sisters whom she did not know, to learn to love the sisters whom Jesus entrusted to her.
At the time of Margaret Mary, people almost never took communion. She entered the Visitation convent out of love for the Eucharist, knowing that she could worship even more and from time to time take communion. She is a sister who is perfectly obedient to the rules of the community. She is in perfect harmony with the others, and she also tries to grow in human qualities, in humility, in joy, in the love of service.
She does normal work in her community. She does the washing up, she sweeps floors, she washes clothes.
She never thought that she could, at any time, free herself from the most humble tasks of a religious community, the humble domestic tasks, in order to retire herself in front of the Blessed Sacrament. She thought it would mean disobedience to retire herself in front of the Blessed Sacrament, if her duty was, for example, to mop the floor.
We ourselves consider her to be a saint, a fairly austere saint. She's seen as an inaccessible saint. In fact, she is aware that she is insignificant and unworthy. Jesus will confirm it as he says to her, "Yes, I have chosen you as a well of unworthiness." She learns while feeling unworthy to let Jesus come to her.
St. Margaret Mary had several apparitions. They talk of apparitions in the monastery, but especially great apparitions which took place in the chapel. These apparitions were universal and personal to each of us.
Before the apparition to Margaret Mary, the Sacred Heart, the heart of Jesus, it is the pierced heart, which appeared in private apparitions to the Rhine mystics in the 13th and 14th centuries. But with Margaret Mary, this heart is presented for the whole of mankind, for all men. Here is this heart which has so loved mankind.
The first great apparition was on the 27th of December, 1673, during the feast of St. John the Evangelist. St. Margaret Mary said that she was praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and she felt imbued by a presence. And she said, "I gave myself to this Spirit, submitting my heart to the power of His love."
On December the 27th, 1673, Margaret Mary had a moving experience. Christ invited her to come and take a long rest on his heart. Jesus is so passionate with love for her, he gives her an extraordinary heart-to-heart experience. To this experience, he says, "My divine heart feels a love so passionate for mankind, and for you in particular, it can no longer contain within itself the flames of its burning charity. So you must be the means to spread those flames." In a unique grace, Jesus asks Margaret Mary for her heart. He plunges it into his, then makes it ablaze through a small spark of his most vivid flame, a spark that she will forever carry in her heart.
This very profound image of resting on the heart of Christ, which is the image of St. John during the Last Supper before the Passion of the Lord. This is an image of close intimacy. It's an image of communion from heart to heart.
She says that she is suddenly gripped by her love of the Lord and that, for the first time, she is discovering the marvels of his love that he had kept hidden until then. So Margaret Mary lived an extraordinary experience. You could say that, like you and I, she goes to pray, and in doing so, Jesus reveals his love to her. The word reveal is rather interesting because she is already a nun and has already given her life to Jesus. She already knows the Lord. However, suddenly there is something new.
She realized that Jesus loved her so much, and she wanted to respond to his love. She understood that Jesus had saved her, that she was saved by this love of Christ.
Margaret Mary rests on the heart of Jesus. And what is it that brings her this rest? It is the knowledge that Jesus is full of love for her. And what is it that today's pilgrims discover? It is that by coming close to the heart of Jesus, they can rest and they can experience Jesus' passionate love for themselves. In the first apparition, Jesus took the lead. He comes to see Margaret Mary. He comes to see his beloved and reveals himself as the beloved of the Song of Songs. In the second apparition, it is the opposite. You could say that it is Margaret Mary whose desire was to love Jesus.
It took place in front of the Blessed Sacrament in 1674. Jesus manifested himself to her, glorious with his 5 wounds shining like 5 suns, and unveiling his heart like a burning fire, revealing to her the wonders of his love. But Jesus complains with sadness. He suffers that many refuse his love. He asks Margaret Mary to love him too, and to console him for this ingratitude. To accomplish this, he offers 3 means: as much communion as she can, communion on the first Friday of each month, and holy hour on Thursday evening, to live with him in his agony in Gethsemane, an hour of intercession for sinners and for asking for mercy.
She wants to love Jesus with all her heart, soul, and strength, so Jesus says to her, "Receive me in the Eucharist, I want to abide in you," or "Remain with me in prayer, watch over with me for an hour."
Jesus does not expect great things from us. Jesus only expects from us a response of love. He wants us to love him from the depths of our hearts.
It is extraordinary. It is very current. It follows the logic of anti-consumption in a certain way. Even in our spiritual life, we sometimes want to consume. Margaret Mary said, "Consuming is fine, but it is not enough for me. I want to give myself." So Jesus gave her the opportunity to give herself. How? Well, take a look at the fresco in the chapel, at what's holding up the feet of the cross.
The third great apparition took place in 1675. In this apparition, the Lord asks her for a feast day to celebrate his heart.
It is quite simple. Jesus says, "I am not going to teach you anything new. I will remind you of what I have already asked." And he speaks the great words, "Here is the heart which has loved men so deeply, and which has spared nothing to the point of exhaustion to show his love." And in acknowledgement, it only receives ingratitude through coldness, scorn, and the sacrilege that they have for me in the sacrament of love.
Jesus reveals to Margaret Mary his greatest torment. His love is not received, and that hurts him. It's an appeal for all men. He who offers himself for all desires that his love should be known by all. For that, he asks Margaret Mary to establish a feast day to honor his heart, the Feast of the Sacred Heart.
He promises St. Margaret Mary that all who will take part in this feast will receive many graces from his heart in return for their confession and communion, especially those who will make known this devotion to others around them.
When Jesus asks for a feast day, the principle is to invite others to it and not to focus on personal relationships. Christian faith is not centered around us as individuals. We are called to see the world, to see the desire of the world, to learn Jesus' love. Jesus tells us, "I want to show my love through you."
To help her make these apparitions known, Christ sends her who he calls his faithful servant and perfect friend, a young Jesuit priest, Claude La Colombière. Claude did not want to be consecrated, but seeing that in the company of Jesus he could best follow the Lord, he answered this call. Claude is a talented, bright young man. During a retreat, he realizes that he gets personal glory from it. This was a turning point for him. At the age of 33, he experienced a new conversion and decided to follow the Lord more radically. My God, I believe most firmly that you watch over all those who hold hope for you, and that we can expect nothing when we rely on you with everything. Therefore, I am resolved in the future to have no anxieties and to cast all my cares upon you. People may deprive me of worldly goods and honors. Sickness may take from me my strength and the means of serving you. I may even lose your grace by sin, but my trust shall never leave me. To everyone's surprise, Claude is sent to Paray-le-Monial by his superiors to assess the apparitions received by Margaret Mary. He confirms the authenticity of the graces she received, and a great spiritual friendship emerges between them. He is sent to London and becomes chaplain to the Duchess of York. During this mission, he is slandered and unjustly imprisoned and falls seriously ill in captivity. Once freed, he spends the rest of his life in Paray-le-Monial.
Claude and Margaret Mary complemented each other very well in the devotion of the heart of Jesus, in making it known and loved.
It is thanks to Saint Claude that the message of the Sacred Heart of Jesus is going to be known. It is thanks to Saint Claude that what Margaret Mary lived through is known. Notably, during a reading at lunch in the refectory, the sisters of the Visitation Convent discover that one of them had experienced a particular grace. Everyone recognizes Margaret Mary. She is the one who has her nose in her soup. She certainly did not want to be known. Notwithstanding, St. Claude's notes from retreats, which were mysteriously published, revealed what happened at the Visitation Convent.
It took more than 150 years for the Church to welcome and recognize the apparitions and to institute the Feast of the Sacred Heart. From the 17th century onwards, many saints and communities would join in this experience that Margaret Mary founded and would give their lives to proclaim God's love for all men.
The experience of the heart of Jesus has to be lived firstly in our own homes, but coming on a pilgrimage to Paray-le-Monial is the opportunity to get back to the source. Am I caught up in the turmoil in the world? Am I tired? This holy place will allow me to rest, find myself again, enable me to be set on fire again by the heart of Jesus in order to love him again.
How can we live this heart to heart? Simply by letting ourselves go. Generally, when you come on a pilgrimage to Paray-le-Monial, you are supported by priests, chaplains, who lead the pilgrimage for us. Let us simply listen. Let us pray.
There is a very distinct way which is very easy to follow in Paray-le-Monial. It is adoration, because we all need to be loved deeply to know it and experience it. And not merely to have heard it one day in catechism, we need to live it.
All those who come to Paray-le-Monial receive many graces, and that is certain. And we have an obligation which we are happy to comply with. And that obligation of love is to follow everything we have received here. That is, to go and give his love to our brothers.
We will love with the heart of Christ. So, Lord, take my heart of stone, give me a heart of flesh. But more than the prophecy of Ezekiel, give me your own heart, Lord. Set mine on fire so that I can love through yours.
Ultimately, that is what the experience of the Sacred Heart is. It is to choose love, to rethink love. However, we see that alone we cannot manage. We see how much we need the Lord, how much we need his love to help us to achieving that.